Hi guys, welcome to Rise Up, a Beamy Beam. Today I'm going to be speaking about the dark night of the soul. I spoke about it before, but at the time I was speaking about that, it was trying to understand what did it mean now. So for many of you that are going through and have searched for that sentence of the dark night of the soul, there's a real good reason. There are not many people out there like me that speak about this journey. But this journey of the dark night of the soul is such an important discovery. Even though it's very dark and it's very fearful and you can seem like that you're being attacked, did you ever feel a presence of fear? A presence that may have manipulated your mind? Or did you ever feel something stepped into you? Did horrible thoughts come upon you? But here's the difference when you say to yourself, why am I thinking like that? Why am I being like that? And if there's a question there, that means you're not doing it consciously. That means something else is doing it because you're questioning it. See what I'm saying? If you knew that you was consciously doing what you was doing, then there's no question about it. But in the dark night of the soul, it's a place where all your belief systems, everything that you ever thought about yourself, everything that you ever thought life was all about, and you will say to yourself, it's pointless. That is the turning point. Because on a soul's level, it's pointless. On a soul's level, it's very disappointed. On a soul's level, oh yeah, it's depressed. When you go through this journey, it's a personal journey for you. The steps I bring is called Be Me. They are the instructions to understand the steps that you're going through, or it gives you the steps to go through. Because the most important thing is this. When I speak to people and I listen to their stories, what's so great about that is I don't think any of it's crazy. To me, they make perfect sense. But when you're on your own with it, it's madness. It's complete madness. And do you know why? It's because you've got no one to express with or to communicate with. Now, the interesting thing is this. There's a master teacher in all of us. The God code is in all of us. It's got to be. It must be. Whatever made everything out there, hello, we are part of that everything. But what we do is we separate ourselves from the everything. What I discovered is being able to have the whole. Inner, outer, upper, below. A whole combination of everything working as one unit. In the dark night of the soul, you're going to be all over the place. You won't even know what to think about for tomorrow. You won't even be interested in eating food or getting dressed or even getting up in the morning and then finding yourself walking around 3-4 o'clock in the morning thinking I can't get no sleep because it's an agitation and it's a frustration and it's a story unfolding. And in that story, it's letting you know all of your fears. It's letting you know how emotional you are. It's letting you know how your mind communicates with yourself. I bring this code, this message. I didn't think it was something I was going to be doing. It happened. But this is what happens when you go through the dark night of the soul, because you become a teacher. You become very aware that many other people will go through the dark night of the soul. Call it depression. If you call it depression, it's a medical thing. Call it the dark night of the soul, which has so much more meaning to it, and I say it as the dark night of the soul because for me that's what it felt like. I just fell into the dark night, and my soul and me just crumbled. And the reason being is because the soul starts to remember it's supposed to be doing something. But in that doing something, there's a part of it that doesn't want to do it. It came here, it thought, just to have a good time. But in the dark night of the soul, you're being pulled out of retirement. You're being pulled out of, oh, you think you're there for a holiday, do you? And so therefore, you and the soul and the energy and this presence starts to have a conflicting view about what is the reality of life, what is the reality of my life, what is the reality of your life, what is the perception of how you see your life. When you're struggling, it's a really good sign. I know it doesn't feel like it, but I'm giving you some words of encouragement. It's a very good sign because you're questioning it. You're fighting it. You're trying to understand it. You're trying to beat it. It's very difficult when you're using the human terminology of life, but understanding it in the way I teach it, by understanding that there is a reason behind all of this, and the reason behind that crash is because your soul wants you to be emptied of all the crap you've collected. It's weighing you down. It's beating you down. Nothing can get into your container, your instrument, if it's filled with shit. I didn't used to think I was filled with shit. But when you awaken and when you become a spiritual channel, and then you start to realize that there is so much more behind life, and then you realize that the spirit world exists because you've just seen too many of them, then you have to question your own spirit. So if you see spirits, you understand spirit, you want to understand what spirituality is. It's non-physical, but it is physical because it's here. But again, we put the separation between you being the human being and what you would say is spiritual, or to become spirit. The two become the one. What does that mean? No separation between me and that. The two become the one. That was the Be Me moment. Not human being with loads of excuses and words of emotions and a mind of conflict. The Be Me cut right through the middle of the bullshit. Is it this? Is it that? Is it hard? Am I this? Am I that? I don't know. Shall I read scriptures? Shall I go to church? What shall I do? Why did God forsaken me? Why doesn't God hear my prayers? Why did God do that to me? I think we've all got our problems with this God thing, but we have a faith. Mine's not a faith. I know. That's the difference. I know what I know. That's all I know. I teach what I know because that's all I know. And the interesting thing about what I teach is I don't parrot fashion anyone. I don't read a certain something out of a book and think that's a good idea to talk about. Because I teach people, the world, to take a real good look at their own self-belief and take a real good look at their own book that they're writing. You could almost call them your own scriptures. You could also be saying that what you're doing in this journey is completely being documented by the soul. So the idea of what is spirit? Spirit to me is the opposite end to what I was as a human being. I became spiritual in that nature, which made me realize I'm gonna die. And because I know the spirit world exists, I know I'm going to turn into a spirit. So you go to this place of thinking to yourself, well, how would that feel for me? What would you say to yourself? Would it be a disappointment? Do you think you did well? Did you think that you sort of loved enough? Do you think you treated your children good enough? How will you feel? Now, of course, we know dark spirits exist. There's been loads of programs on them. I've seen dark spirits, and believe me, they are fucking dark. And that dark influence can manipulate you. When I did mediumship, I got into channeling. Then there was a moment when I fell into what you would call is trance. Now, trance is when a spirit being actually takes you over and they speak through you. On some occasions, on some of my seminars, people have actually seen the person that they're getting the message from overshadow me. A lot of the times, I don't know what's going on because something takes me out of the room. Something of me leaves. That's what trance is. You create a space for a spirit to speak through you. Amazing, right? No, it's actually pretty scary to think that that's even possible. And I spent a lot of time trying to understand how on earth is that possible? And because I had that experience, I'm now getting screwed up in my mind of what am I seeing, what am I thinking, and are they actually my thoughts? That's the difference. When the inspiration of my work came through, it came through in many ways. Came through automatic writing, just happened. And then I would see what I'd written and was amazed. So it took me a long time to understand that something was working through me. But was that something for good or for bad? The dark night of the soul is a challenge because the soul knows, dark spirit knows, that you are awakening. You're up for a trophy of who will win. Will you take the reins of the darkness, or will you control the light of who you are to combat darkness? So when you know you've got a message, and you know you've got a gift. And through my awakening, I discovered many gifts, miraculous ways of healing, unbelievable, mind-blowing. They blew my mind. Took me years to understand that I wasn't making it up, or maybe it was a fluke. Maybe it was going to happen anyway. Self-belief, there it goes. Self-doubt. But my message is this. We've got a species of humans that don't really believe themselves. Maybe you don't even trust yourself. That's a tough one. But when you master the self and you start to understand that your interpretation to life can be anything that you want, if it makes sense to you. So you define what life means to you. And this is what the dark night of the soul is teaching you. It's teaching you what you have become through your experiences, just as a human being. The dark night comes in and says, enough is enough. I'm heading off this way, because the soul is now awakening to its true journey. And its true journey knows where it's come from and where it's going, but got caught in the third dimension, which is the human programming, to become a slave. So when we hear about what is it that you would like to receive from the dark night of the soul, through understanding what is spirituality, what is it we are really seeking? And it's freedom. Be Me, Be-Meism, was a freedom for me. Life is very serious. When you awaken, your soul has got so much freedom. It communicates in completely different ways, and it receives answers in many ways. And you start to understand that there is a level of consciousness that's there that is beautiful. And it's been communicating with all of us. But the 5 sense realm where we live, the human, squashes that. It kills that. It disappears. But when you go through that dark night of the soul, it's reminding you of something. And I'm telling you, it's reminding you to wake up. Stop being the human being that is experienced you to be you. My name is Trevor Ilesley. I'll see you on the other side. Take care.